Hello everyone and welcome back. It's been a while since I've done a mod review, but one has recently popped up on the workshop that has taken my interest. The Guests of Raja, which you'll be colonizing in, as yes, you will need Immortal Empires Expanded for this mod, and yeah, you'll have a pretty interesting mixed roster from a variety of different races. This takes inspiration from that of Marcus Wolfhard, but gets expanded upon it. So let's talk about the faction effects. Limited roster, only basic units are immediately recruitable. Reinforcements from the Seven Seas, you can find Servana, I am probably butchering that, coins and send them to major factions in exchange for reinforcements, improved sea navigation, and of course, income from trade plus 50%. We're going to be taking all their spices. Now, when it comes to Lord effects, you've got plus 10 reload time for, I'm assuming that's reduction, for, for crossbow units. The bonus versus infantry plus 10 for halberdier units, Lord's Army. Both of these are for Lord's Army. And then finally, plus 25% campaign movement range, which means that you're going to be moving through Ind and Koresh quite quickly. So your campaign will begin with a settlement in Koresh while your army starts off in the sea between Koresh and Ind. You've got the choice of going into Ind and getting more out of it because a lot of your mechanics are kind of tied up there, or going into Koresh and kind of expanding there, come back whenever. There's a lot that you can do there. You're going to want to be aggressive though, because there's a lot of factions around this area. Remember that this is a map expansion mod also with the Immortal Empires Expanded, so you've got to deal with quite a lot of enemies, and you'll be able to pick up some brand new resources straight from your first turn, because yeah, there's quite a lot to do here. You're going to need a bunch of resources to kind of expand from that, because once you start looting and occupying, sacking, or even raising settlements, you'll get new resources that will be found in your trade tab. You can also buy them, by the way, so you don't have to always loot and occupy, because that's never really the best option for certain settlements. You can sell them too if you have too many, which gets you a lot of money, but these resources will go into the workshop, which will allow you to then combine 5 of each, and then you'll be able to pick up some reinforcements, a lot of units from, say, for example, the dwarfs, the ogres, the Empire, Bretonia, Cafe also. You're going to have a pretty mixed roster here. Think of it kind of similar to how a lot of people are interpreting like the Dogs of War in certain parts, but it's less Dogs of War, more unique kind of mercenaries. It's a trader faction more than anything else. It's definitely a unique take, and it's kind of similar to what Games Workshop is now doing with the whole Renegade Crown system. So your really good units will be recruited in the same way as like the mercenary system, pretty much like Marcus Wolfhard, but a little bit different, obviously, because you do need to give away some resources for that. Whereas your construction is going to offer you some basic troops. If I can say one thing, I don't like the fact that it's like 4 tiers for the basic military. I think that's a tad too much because it is very limited. The buildings are good overall, and you do get access to like ogres and stuff, which is very, very useful. It's definitely one of those factions that's going to take a while to kind of get used to, because I realized a lot of people had that issue with Marcus. Now, there is a tech tree, and keep in mind that this is going to be very similar to that of the Empire, but it's got a bunch of changes. So it's not all like, oh yeah, you know, this is just the Empire tech tree. It's going to focus around buffing up all the units that you have access to. This means the different other factions too. There's other sections that have been added in where you'll have to use your special resource. Mostly very easy to go around. Probably one of the more easy tech trees to kind of just spot what you're looking for, what you want to upgrade. There's some pretty powerful ones too, because like right about the end, you can really get some powerful bonuses focusing around like either your gunners or your melee troops. It's definitely blanket upgrades, so it's just getting you in and out as quickly as possible, so you can just kind of deal with all the shit shows that happens in the areas of Ind and Koresh, because there's a lot of hostile factions there. So I like it. I think it's pretty well done, and it's very well thought out. You have a special set of commandments when you've got areas inside of Ind, so they're not always going to be like this. So you'll be able to get more of those resources generated if you want to sell them off more. There is some negatives, obviously minus control and some higher chaos corruption, but that also works as a positive too, because, I mean, if you want to level up some characters very quickly, you might as well just get some rebellions out and farm them, right? It works out quite well, depending on how hectic your campaign goes, especially with the player bias. But in most cases, you're going to be fine, and you can just kind of expand from there. Troops will be expensive, and you're going to notice the lack of troops very early on until you start to get the ball rolling. So yeah, don't panic too much. The big thing is obviously getting used to your character options. So your legendary lord is a hybrid melee shooter. I was about to say spellcaster, but no. You do have access to mist mages and alchemists, I do believe, however. But yeah, you're going to be able to dramatically, and I mean dramatically, reduce the upkeep on your embedded heroes alongside your standard troops too. So this guy is pretty good for that, and it's the same thing with your other lord option, which is very, very useful. The good thing is your lord option can also be your shooter or also focused around melee, which is really, really good. You do have access to other lords, so you've got the Druzina and the Huntsmaster General, but if you want to use just the modded versions, that's perfectly fine. You're going to have a lot of stuff from other rosters. It's going to be one of those weird mishmash factions, which ultimately works out quite well. I've been enjoying my own campaign so far. I actually recorded all the footage on my own campaign, and unfortunately, the render didn't work out too well, and it bugged out. So here I am again with brand new stuff. You do have a lot of hero options too. The first one being your veteran, which is kind of like buff melee, kind of good fighter. Yeah, overall, your hero protector more than anything else. You do have some other ones, like for example, the Pariah, which has a few javelins, but it's basically your Beastmen style character if you want some Eastern Beastmen, as there are a few in here, which is going to give you some monstrous units, which is very, very useful. Pretty good styling too. We're going to be checking those out in just a second. Overall, big fan of it. So there is plenty of like new stuff to be using in the mod, and thankfully you can actually get them pretty early into your campaign if you've decided to go into Koresh more than anything else. I mean, you can recruit them through global recruitment, but it is, well, pretty expensive, I'm not going to lie. There is also another type over here. The Tagi, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce that, is kind of like the Wood Elf Shadow Dancers, so pretty good at melee, having some pretty good damage over there. They can be kind of swishy, so it does depend. You're going to have to kind of buff them up, getting them some poison attacks and the rest. But overall, pretty good hero. It's one of those hero types that you want to take into battle, but you're also kind of worried about how to kind of use them. But the styling is very cool. I like the model style. I think that's just awesome. We don't have a lot of mods right now with like interpretations of stuff for Ind at the moment, but I do imagine that we'll get some more in the future. It's one of those untapped sources. Hell, I wish even Games Workshop would kind of jump into that too. So the roster itself is pretty eclectic when you see it as a mix. There's a lot of different things, but it's mostly stuff that you're kind of used to, but there's also a lot of stuff that is kind of unique. You know, you got some hero choices in there that we'll talk about in just 1 second. It's pretty interesting though. Again, very similar to what people are doing now with the Renegade Crown stuff, which I kind of like actually. It does have that little tabletop inspiration there, which I think a lot of people can appreciate. So if we start talking about like the unique stuff, it's not a lot, and it's not going to be something that you're going to be using too much, I think, but there is like some pretty cool cannons. What I do really like here is that it looks like the modders have used the bases of like the Cathayan troops, so like the crossbowmen and the halberdiers are very regimental. Same thing with like the characters, where you can see through the animation style, right? The Eastern Beastmen, again, we've seen like these Eastern Beastmen things before. Something that you can appreciate is like, you know, the hyena wolfmen kind of just like having the Skaven rig, so they're kind of just like running around a lot. I like that. That's really smart to do. Very basic, but you've got options to play around with, and then mixing up your force. If you want like a mercenary style playthrough, this is probably going to be the one for you. Mixing up humans with ogres takes you back to like, you know, the original interpretation for the ogres back during, was it 5th edition? It's been a long time since the ogres kind of broke off from being like a mercenary force and straight on to, yeah, let's make them a proper army. But I think it works out, and, you know, the heroes and the lords work out very well. You can mix and match with other heroes and lords that you've got access to for some pretty diverse force options. Like, I'll say it, like, the roster is kind of small, but it gets the job done. Surprisingly so. I've done about 50 turns or so in my own playthrough, and yeah, pleasantly surprised. There's definitely a lot of freedom with this mod. I tried going into Ind for a while, then I also kind of pushed out into Koresh, then sent forces up north into Cathay through my own playthrough. I like that, I really do. It's definitely one of those, if you're looking for something new, you're trying to get something really unique going on with a campaign in terms of playstyle, yeah, you're going to want to download this one. Remember, once again, it does require Immortal Empires Expanded, which, to be honest, should be like the main way that you're playing Warhammer 3 in these cases anyway, because it does give the map like a proper feel. You know, just even with just adding in the Koresh, but the extra expansions up north, also having the territories of Nippon and the Lost Isles of Elephas added in, it really makes the Immortal Empires map feel unique, and it allows for cool mods like this, where otherwise, most cases, the other areas are already kind of taken over from either other mods or even the vanilla lords, with more and more each coming each day. The mod itself can be found in the description below. I've pretty much liked the experience. I'll give this a surprisingly high rating. I wasn't expecting to like it that much until I got linked it a few times. I was like, okay, look, I'll check it out. And yeah, surprisingly, really, really good. And I think that's a really good thing about it. You want those hidden gems. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this mod in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. I'll see you all again very, very soon, guys. I'm going to go back to playing some Total War because, yeah, right now I'm really enjoying playing Total War. Have a good day, guys.